All right, today we're going to break down a really detailed analysis from JINSA, a national security think tank, focusing on Iran's military power. We're going to explore how their massive arsenal of missiles and drones isn't just for show, it's all about projecting power across the entire Middle East. But we're also going to uncover what the report points to as the single biggest weakness. So the report makes one thing crystal clear right from the get-go. Iran's arsenal isn't just for parades. It's a fundamental part of its foreign policy. It's meant to project influence, keep enemies at bay, and as you can see, just totally complicate any military plan someone might try to draw up against it. This quote from Iran's supreme leader really gets to the heart of their whole strategy. It shows this core belief that just one single, well-placed weapon can completely neutralize a much more expensive, technologically superior piece of military hardware. I mean, that's the textbook definition of asymmetric warfare, and it really shows you just how high the stakes are here. Okay, so first up, let's talk about how this threat is actually evolving. Because it's not just about the raw number of missiles Iran has. It's about how they're strategically placed to hold all these critical assets. We're talking everything from military bases to global energy infrastructure at risk. Now, here's a point from the report that might surprise you. We tend to focus on those huge long-range missiles, right? But JINSA argues that the greatest danger, especially to forces in the region, actually comes from their short-range systems. Why? Well, it's just basic geography. The targets in the Gulf are so close that flight times are just minutes, which gives defense systems way, way less time to react. So what are we really talking about here? What's actually in this arsenal? Let's take a quick look at the hardware that makes this whole strategy possible. This map really paints a stark picture of Iran's reach. See those inner rings? They cover key U.S. bases and allies all across the Gulf. But then as you move out, their medium-range systems can hit all of Israel and even parts of southeastern Europe. And the key thing is, the launchers don't even have to leave Iranian soil to do it. And this layered capability is absolutely crucial. Iran isn't just banking on one type of missile. Nope. They've got systems like the Shahab-3 for closer regional targets, and then others like the Khorramshahr that can reach out almost 3,000 kilometers. This gives them a ton of options and lets them launch from deep inside their own country, which makes it so much harder for an enemy to find and destroy those launchers before they can fire. And it's not just about how far these things can go, it's about how smart they are. The report talks about maneuverable reentry vehicles, or MARVs. The best way to think about it is like a curveball versus a fastball. A regular warhead just follows a predictable arc, right? But a MARV can actually make last-second adjustments, zigging when it should have zagged. That makes it incredibly difficult for defense systems to get a lock on it. And yeah, missiles like the Ahmad have this game-changing tech. Now, this slide highlights a really critical strategic trade-off. You've got your liquid-fueled missiles, they're the workhorses. They can carry bigger warheads, but they're slow to get ready, which makes them sitting ducks. Then you've got solid-fueled missiles. These are the sprinters. They can be launched with almost no warning. The fact that Iran has invested in both, well, that gives them a ton of flexibility in any kind of conflict. Okay, so Iran's got the hardware, but the JINSA report argues that the real threat isn't just the gear, it's the doctrine. It's how they plan to use it. And their strategy isn't just to land a punch, it's to completely overwhelm their opponent. The whole strategy is designed to create absolute chaos. They plan to launch what they call strike packages, which mix slow-moving drones with super-fast ballistic missiles, all to confuse the heck out of defense systems. They'll fire in these massive waves to saturate defenses, hit a single target from multiple directions at the same time, and scatter their launchers all over the country so they can survive a counterattack. And that whole dispersal strategy leads us to something the report calls missile cities. Just imagine these huge underground networks, hardened tunnels dug deep into mountains. From these places, they can store missiles, get them ready, and then roll them out from hidden entrances. That makes them exceptionally difficult to destroy and pretty much ensures they can survive and fight back in a conflict. So after painting this really formidable picture of Iran's capabilities, the report then pivots to what is probably its most important insight. It uses a simple analogy that totally reframes the problem and puts a spotlight on a critical vulnerability. So the question is obvious, right? With thousands of missiles, these crazy underground bases, and a strategy built on just overwhelming you, where's the weak spot? I mean, how do you even begin to counter something like that? And the answer the report gives, it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. Don't focus on the thousands of arrows. You focus on the one who fires them. The vulnerability isn't the missile, it's the launcher. So here's what that looks like in practice. Iran might have thousands and thousands of arrows, that's the missiles and the drones, but they have a much smaller, finite number of archers, the actual mobile launchers they need to fire them. The report identifies these launchers as the system's major choke point. If you can take out the archers, well then the thousands of arrows are just useless. It's the most effective path to disrupting their whole saturation strategy. So what's the bottom line here? Let's just pull back for a second and look at the big strategic implications of this whole analysis. So there are really three key things to take away from the Jinsa report. First, Iran's arsenal is huge. It's advanced and it's absolutely central to their entire military strategy. Second, their game plan relies on overwhelming defenses with these complex saturation attacks. But third, and this is the most critical part, the whole system hinges on one key vulnerability, that limited number of launchers, the archers, not the arrows. And that kind of leaves us with one last really crucial question. This whole archer versus arrow dynamic is just a snapshot in time, right? As technology keeps evolving with faster missiles, smarter defenses, more mobile launchers, the central challenge is always going to be adapting. How do you stay one step ahead in what is an incredibly high-stakes technological chess match?